Blizzard has told us that for Overwatch 2, they are experimenting with taking away the current 30% speed boost that they had on the last beta for DPS, and they want to instead experiment with allowing them to keep up to 30% of their ult charge when they switch heroes. That might encourage a bit more hero swapping, and it has the benefit of not scaling up quite so powerfully as the previous passive that they had in the beta did. There were problems where that DPS passive was very, very good as players got better, and worse as players got worse, compared to the support passive, for example. And they clarify that in this post here. They then clarified a bit further that they meant, hey, no, you can't keep 30% of, let's jump over here, you can't get 30% of Pulse Bomb and then swap over to Sombra and expect to have 30% of EMP. They are tracking the actual ult points necessary to get the ult, but if you had 70% of Pulse Bomb and you swapped over to Sombra, yes, you'd have your 30% of EMP. And those are example numbers. 30% is what we're looking at here for what you can carry over, but you might need more than 30% to get 30% for some of those swaps. So that obviously has some interesting impacts, but what it inspired me to do today was to take a look at the DPS in general and rate their ults based on the strength of their ults. Now, I am going to look at their Overwatch 1 ults rather than think too hard about the Overwatch 2 world. If we do some things where Sombra's ult would go down a bit, some of the Hitscan ults would go up a bit in value based on not having that ever-present diva. Couple things like that, Pharah's would go up. Reapers would actually gain a little as well. But mostly what we're looking at here is we're thinking about, well, in Overwatch 1, what was the power level of the ults? And we do actually mean the strength of the ults. We do not mean the efficiency. For example, if we factored in how much it takes to get the ults versus how many times you expect to be able to use them, again, we'd see EMP go down because it's going to be a bit more effort to charge up and Pulse Bomb to go up, that sort of thing. But we're just looking at the power level when people have their ults. And the first thing you should notice is these top two tiers of DPS ultimates might not feel very much like DPS ultimates. You see this. Sombra and Symmetra almost unquestionably have the two best DPS ults in the game, and they're not, oh, we puke out a lot of damage, they're, we massively take away your abilities, or we set up a massive 5,000 HP wall that allows us to sustain and fight. In fact, both of these ults are really better compared to support ults, where it's almost like having a rally going or a transcendence going. You can even think of EMP a lot like that, where EMP gets used to answer beats, or you sort of have power windows, power plays where our team has beat going. Okay, so we can fight the other team that has transcendence going. Those are even. Or no, our team has sim wall going, so now we can fight the team that has beat going. Or now we can use EMP to take away the beat. Or we have EMP, we'll use EMP, and no, we'll counter the EMP with beat. It's sort of power play level stuff, both of these things, and that's really unsurprising. They're like some of the best support ults in the game. They are the best DPS ults. Then we get into what you could actually look at as more like tank ults with these two. With the Torb Lava, with the Blizzard, those are going to be more like tank ults. You're actually going to see Echo very frequently clone tank, so she gets thrown in there as well, where you're really going, no, this is massive area that we're covering with some duration. Blizzard lasts for a bit. Molten Core lasts quite a bit longer. Echo is frequently going to get up to one or multiple tank ults, at least in Overwatch 1 when she's being used. In Overwatch 2, her ult's value would drop a little bit. And then lastly, we have another different type of utility ult with Bob, which takes a new angle, has to be dealt with, is very much a, hey, we can put an extra person on the board. So these would be sort of support ult, similar type things, tank ult, similar type things, extra little utility thing, and these end up being the best DPS ults in the game. And so we have to get all the way down to our mid-tier, our B tier, before we get to actual damage or DPS ults. And the best two probably are Blade and Tire. You might get some objection to that of, no, Blade's not all that good without Nano, but it still forces a pretty good reaction if you're fighting at the right time. It does require a lot of attention. Your team should, of course, with any ult, be fighting while the ult is going, so the opponents use their cooldowns to answer the ult and you take them out, or if they use their cooldowns to match yours, the ults take them out. These are both pretty usable. You guys know the flaws with them. Genji is CCable, Tire fire is destroyable, but if you use them right, they work pretty darn well. And then we get into the lower tier ults, and we could go through C tier. There's nothing too wild here. We can, of course, see Hanzo. That's sort of similar in that, hey, you can send that dragon through. It's a lot of area denial. It's really not as good as a Blizzard, as a Molten Core. It's not going to be, you can fight during it, but it's not as powerful as putting a tire or a blade in there. So he sits at the top of this C tier here. And then we get over to Bastion and Doomfist, where their ults may not seem all that powerful, but they still are DPS type ults, and they do allow you to play the heroes differently. You can go harder with your normal kit with Doomfist. You can, with Bastion, of course, go in there and say, hey, I have the flexibility to move while still putting out very good damage. Not quite as good as his turret form, but very good damage while going out there. And that added flexibility to their playstyle when their ult is available does help them quite a bit, makes them some more powerful ults. Blossom is a pretty basic ult. It's damage. It's fine. It doesn't really have great mobility to it without Reaper moving himself. A lot of people might have ranked Pharah's ult lower, but I don't really think that would be appropriate to do. It is a very powerful ult if you protect it. She's going to trade herself out, but the key is she's usually going to be able to trade herself out for multiple things. She might go, hey, I lose my life for 2 people's life. I lose my life for 3 people's life. I lose my life for nobody's life, but for absolutely decimating the team's resources, their Rhine Shield, their defense matrix, their immortality field, all those things are off the board, and they're all at 40%, and my team wipes them out, and we win the team fight. She's very good at forcing that sort of thing. You're much more likely to plan a team fight win, for example, around a barrage than you are around a tack visor, or even around a dragon strike. So that's kind of what we look at there. And then we get into the Hitscan ults, and no one should really be surprised that the Hitscan are sitting at the bottom here, with the exception of Ashe, who is a very different sort of ult than the rest of the Hitscan. Widow's ult is very different as well. It's a utility ult. It would, in its use, in a lot of ways, be more similar to like a BAP window, but really, it's not terribly surprising that we would rate these Hitscan DPS ults as weak, as overall, that is most of how Blizzard has chosen to balance Hitscan versus projectile in their game. In a lot of games, you'd say, see, projectiles do more damage because they're harder to aim. In Overwatch, you see less of that, more damage from the projectile heroes, and instead you tend to find the projectile heroes have better ultimates. That sort of thing, whereas the pure Hitscan shooter type heroes tend to have worse ultimates, while keeping similar neutral damage, but more reliable neutral damage to the projectile heroes. But let me know what you guys think. Do you massively disagree with the order that I've put some of these heroes in? Do you think Cassidy should be way up top? Do you think Reaper belongs higher? Do you look at Doomfist and go, no, his ult is terrible, it's just an escape? Let me know how your order would be different. Were you surprised by the top 6 ults here in any way, shape, or form? And also let me know what you think about the Blizzard news that they're testing out this maintaining ult charge instead of movement speed. I actually think this is good. I personally like that they're moving away from that movement speed buff for the DPS there. I think that was going to be too hard to balance across the huge skill differences of the ladder, and that it's so much better higher on the ladder than lower on the ladder. But I am interested in what you guys think. So definitely let me know in the comments down below. If you're enjoying the content, drop a like, consider subscribing for more thought-provoking Overwatch and Overwatch 2 content, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Temporal out.